Hey, thanks for stopping by Mystic Messages. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Hope everyone is doing amazing today. First off, I just want to apologize. I have the windows open, so if you hear any voices, happens to be the neighbors that are hanging out on the deck. And I apologize for that. I don't know if they're bleeding through or not, but if they are, those are the voices that you're hearing. Okay. Today's message is very specific, and as always, these messages are timeless and will be received in divine timing for those who need to hear them. And as always, if they don't apply, let them fly. But I do encourage everyone to stay because there might be something in here that you could find useful. All right, that being said, let's get to it. Today's message is from Source. Okay, okay. The sense that I'm getting, the messages that I received this morning, is that there's some of you out there that have been asking for Source to respond. Okay, waiting for some type of a message, an answer to what you need to do. Okay, in this instance, there's somebody who's looking to change locations, another person who's stuck in a job that they're not happy with, another person is in a relationship that they're not happy with. There's also another situation where somebody is needing to move on from a certain friendship or family member that they've been feeling that their ties are loosening between. And there's a reason why that's happening is because that is your response. Okay. And that's basically what the message is about. God doesn't speak in burning bushes and things like you've probably seen on television or in the Bible. He speaks in everyday, ordinary ways. Okay, so when Source is communicating to us, it's through events. Okay, when Source begins to separate people from us or give us an uncomfortable feeling when we're in a certain situation, or that urge that something needs to change, this is not coming from you. That is the answer. Now, the problem is many people don't want to follow the answer that they're getting because either they don't like it or they're afraid to make the maneuver. Okay. And this is what's causing you to remain stagnant and unsure, and you're thinking that you're not getting responded to. What Source needs you to understand is that you have been responded to. You just either, like I said, don't like the answer you're receiving or don't want to follow through with it. Okay. Source can't force you to do anything. Okay. This is why he gave you free will to do what you want to do. Just like these messages. You could take them, you could leave them, you could do whatever you want with them, but they're available to you and for those who want to hear the truth, for those who are ready to hear the truth. And it's okay if you're not. There's many people who are not ready to hear the truth, and that's cool. It's no big deal, okay? But it will unfortunately affect the events in your life when you're not willing to follow the advice that's being offered to you, especially when it's coming from the divine realms, such as a message like this. And not just from my messages, but from other messages as well, because I'm not the only person that does this type of work. Okay. And at the end of this message, I do have some names that might resonate, okay, which might be your name or someone that's involved in the situation to further validate that this message is for you. Again, Source is speaking, Source is answering. You've been asking, wondering, looking, searching, but you're searching for these big dramatic events that are not going to take place. Okay? Answers come in many forms. They're subtle. They come through music. They can come through a television commercial. They can come through another person, just a stranger on the street, a supermarket checker, whoever. Messages do come through, but we have to be open to listen. So the suggestion for you is to take time to look within yourself. Okay? This is where you find the answers. Meditate, pray, and listen. Wait for the response. Okay? You might not always like the response you get. Okay? It might not always look the way that you expect it to look, but it is a response nonetheless. But we have to know where to find those responses. We have to know where to seek them. And then we have to be willing to, you know, follow what the response is, regardless of what it is. Okay? And sometimes we're not going to like the response. Like I said earlier, we're not going to want to follow that response because it makes us feel uncomfortable. We're afraid of change. Okay, we're worried. But you have to remember, if Source is guiding you, there's nothing for you to be afraid of because the backing and the protection is there. All you have to do is ask. Again, this has to do with universal spiritual law. Okay? The deities cannot interfere unless we ask. We have to ask for what we need, for what we want, for what we seek, and the guidance will come as long as we're willing to listen. Okay, so if you're receiving this message today, this is most likely because you are struggling or you're waiting for an answer. Okay, and again, This is further confirmation. You have already been receiving the answer. That little voice that you have within, that feeling, that urge, that, something that you heard in passing from a stranger's mouth. These are the responses. You know what you need to do. You just have to follow through with it. You just have to not be afraid and move forward. And like I said, it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be fearful. It's okay not to understand. But that's what faith is about. It's about being able to trust and take that leap even when we can't see the way clearly. For instance, I went through that myself when I had to start this channel. Okay. I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. Okay. I'm not tech savvy. I'm not, I didn't grow up in an era where computers were readily available to me, okay, or any type of work like this. I never wanted to do any kind of work like this, but yet I was being called to do it, okay. I knew I had certain abilities since a childhood, since my childhood, but, Source wanted me to utilize those abilities on a bigger scale, okay, which is something that I didn't feel I was ready for. I was afraid, I was scared, and I had to move forward with the information that I was being given, even though I didn't know all the steps to take. And I kind of figured it out piece by piece. I'm still figuring it out. These videos are still not perfect, and I don't need for them to be perfect. That's the whole point, okay? But what it taught me was that I was able to move forward, okay, even though I couldn't see the path in the end, because this is what the universe was asking me to do. And I just trusted in that, okay? And I was told from the very beginning that it would be a very slow, difficult path, and I would have to contend with that, but I would have to keep pushing myself forward, which I did, and I am slowly making progress. And the same thing will work for you. You just have to stick to it, follow the guidance you're being given, move forward, and know that it's okay to be afraid, and you don't have to be perfect, okay? It's cool just the way you're perfect, just the way you are. We're all perfectly imperfect. We all have fears, we all have doubts. The thing that the universe wants to teach us is that we can overcome those doubts, we can overcome those fears. So if I can do something like this and move forward, so can you. Okay, if that encourages someone today, I hope that it helps them to see that they have the same strength within themselves and that they don't need to be perfect. As I mentioned previously, I don't edit these videos in any way. And I do that intentionally because I just want them to be received in the way they come out. First shot, first step. And I don't worry about the rest. Whether they're perfect or not, even when I have, multiple downloads coming through or I'm under a spiritual attack of some kind and my channels are being, my speech is being fragmented in any way, making things unclear, it's cool because, like I said, those who need to get the message will receive it and they will understand. Okay, so we're going to leave it at that. I am going to give you a list of names that I received today. As I said earlier, these names might apply to you, they might not, or they might be a person who is relevant to the situation or in your situation. All right, so let me just get my glasses and I'll read them off to you. Okay, the names today are Marlene, Joshua, Kevin, Tyrell, David, Samantha, Odessa, Isis, Jamal, Kyrisha, Jennifer, Santouche, Michael, Amanda, Tiffany, and Mercedes. So if this happens to be your name or anyone that applies to the situation, that is further validation that this message is for you. I want to wish everyone a great day. Thanks for stopping by. And if you give the messages a like, I appreciate that because it helps the algorithm for other people to receive the messages. Okay, so we'll hopefully see you again soon. Take care for now. Bye.